Hello! We're going to play some Mars Horizon. I'm just about to launch a mission now. The conditions are being described as terrible.
It's definitely not something that we would recommend ESA do.
I'm feeling lucky.
Space is hard.
It's me and Jem again. We're going to play some Mars Horizon. But Jem, who have we got with us to help us today?
So today we've got joining us Paul Smith from the UK Space Agency, and he's a Robotic Exploration Program Manager, which is like the coolest title ever.
A bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, it's good to have you with us, Paul. Right, so we're going to chat about some awesome stuff with you later, but first of all, let me give the stream viewers a little rundown on where I'm at with the game. So I've started the game a little bit earlier on today. I've been playing through as China, the Chinese Space Agency, CNSA. And yeah, things are going all right. I'm not storming ahead. Let's have a look for a change at how we're doing with the finances. We've got one astronaut, Professor Canister, who we're paying for. We've got quite a few buildings that we're paying for. Funding wise, we're doing all right. We need a little bit more support, and then we'll be upper tier. Science wise, we've got we're in the middle of a Mercury orbit mission. So that means that we have got a nice little science income going at the moment. So let's have a look at the other stuff that's going on, I think. So yeah, we're just about to continue, I think, phase 2 of a Mercury orbit mission. So let's see what's going on here. Look at that. There he is. So you'll see our probe is...
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, we've just put in all these new effects. So our probe is getting a little bit hot, and we've now got to try and achieve Mercury orbit. Right. So let's have a little look. Let's start by generating some comms and a little bit of nav. And here's a new feature actually that anyone that's seen the game before has not seen yet. We now can recharge power during a mission phase. So let's do a nice little double recharge and get some power back. Okay. Oh, do you know what I've forgotten to do? I've forgotten to take into account that heat. And I haven't done any actions that lose our probe heat, so I think I'm about to lose a probe. So we've started with great success. So on that, Paul, how did you get into this whole space game?
Well, it certainly wasn't through exploding satellites around Mercury. I don't think they'd let me in if I did that. But I came in through a sort of roundabout kind of way. I've been interested in space as a kid. Of course, I mean, who doesn't want to be an astronaut? But I ended up doing psychology and neuroscience at university, and I sort of left academia from there after getting a master's and ended up working for the research councils. So they're the sort of body that funds the majority of science in the UK. And I found out that the space agency was based in the same building. So I ended up basically banging the door down to get in.
Yeah. No way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what does your role entail? Robotic Exploration Program Manager.
Yeah. So I helped run our exploration program. So the UK is involved in different missions with ESA and NASA and so on. What we do is fund the scientists and the technology and engineers for building and operating satellites and rovers and trips to Mars, basically. So yeah, I deal with scientists and the sort of technology development side, as well as working with ESA and sitting on their sort of program boards for sort of determining the future direction of space exploration in Europe.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is amazing. Actually, Paul, so I'm just about to launch a mission now. I'm afraid the conditions are being described as terrible. In fact, there's a 58% launch reliability on this one. However, I'm feeling lucky. Do you reckon, should we go for this? What do you reckon, guys?
I mean, I always go for it. I'm a gambler. But what do you think, Paul?
Well,
there's no humans aboard.
no, well that's always a good thing. You don't want to send humans up without 100% chance of success.
So they tell me.
Yeah.
And yet. Okay.
50%.
It's definitely not something that we would recommend ESA do.
Well,
but here at Mike and Jem Space Agency, we forge ahead regardless.
Look, we've got agencies to beat. We've got to.
In it to win it.
Okay, so it's the first launch of the stream. Fingers crossed, everyone. Absolutely chucking it down.
People are loving the new launch UI, Mike, by the way.
Ah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we've recently updated the whole launch screen, and it now just shows it all as this glorious percentage bar, and yeah, makes it a lot slicker. Glad you like it. So there we go. So anyway, we made it, guys. There was a small problem. We had a little bit of payload damage, which is going to make it 10% less reliable for the duration of this mission.
But we're up there.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a new feature as well that we put in. So this is a request mission. You can choose to auto-resolve request missions now. So let's see what our statistics are. We've got a 40% chance of success if we auto-resolve it, 20% chance of outstanding success, 40% chance of failure. Very much a roll of the dice. And we like rolls of the dice. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I got bad news, guys.
Oh no, I'm just watching it sail off into space now.
I'm afraid, yeah, the lunar probe is just ways off.
Our little lunar probe. A little salute for him.
Never mind. Anyway.
So what upcoming UK Space Agency missions are there, Paul? Any that you're looking forward to?
Well, the sort of main one for me is ExoMars and the Rosalind Franklin rover. So this is something that we have been funding in conjunction with ESA and with Roscosmos, and it's Europe's biggest mission to Mars yet, basically. It was designed and built in the UK, and takes in teams from all over, not just Europe, but the world as well. So it's a pretty international mission, and its aim is to find life on Mars. So
super exciting.
Yeah.
It was meant to be going July around now, but it's been delayed.
Yeah, it was delayed earlier in the year, thanks to different issues associated with coronavirus and so on. So the next launch window to get to Mars is in 2 years' time. So this time in 2022, we'll be sitting with our fingers crossed again.
And the launch window is to do with where the rotations are, we need to be near Mars?
Yeah, so the planets align, so to speak, once every 2 years, create a short 7-month window to travel between. Otherwise, if we went when we're on one side of the sun and Mars is on the other, it would take years for us to get there. So it's actually quicker to wait until everything aligns better so that we can launch.
That's cool.
We've actually got that in the game when you have to set launch dates. You've got the Mars transfer window and all that. So, in fact,
there we go. Authentic experience.
So I'm about to try and get back on this Mercury mission, the one that I messed up at the start, guys. I'm still getting funded, bizarrely.
Someone's pointed out 7 minutes, Mike's already destroyed 2 probes. That's a good record, even by our standards.
That is pretty. Yeah, that is pretty good. Okay, so launch day on this Mercury orbit mission. Is Mercury the kind of place that you'd want to grow a carrot?
It would be a very burnt carrot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Mercury is It's the closest planet to the sun, of course, and as such, it's one of the hottest places in the solar system. It's also one of the coldest places in the solar system because the far side of Mercury is facing away from the sun and is just in the blackness of space. So it's also one of the coldest places. So either way, you're going to have a very burnt or a very frozen carrot.
Maybe if you like lined it up on the border.
Yeah, right in the middle. Is there any scope for carrots along that middle bit?
That's a very difficult area of science there. You're going to be moving your carrot along at the same rate that Mercury rotates in order to...
So it's not so worth investigating further, is what you're saying.
Well, I'll put it on the list.
Speaking of carrots, I want to show you this carrot. So if you weren't here at the start of the stream, we started talking about carrots. So you one of the things that you do is this right in that you're interested in the growing of vegetables in space?
So this is one of the things that ESA and NASA are looking at on the International Space Station. We've grown things like flowers and lettuce and cabbage and mustard seeds all on the ISS.
Right.
So it's all part of efforts to increase like the sustainable nature of spaceflight, being able to live and work in space or on other planets.
So, like, if we can be growing enough food, we don't have to keep sending food up there.
Yeah, exactly. And rockets are expensive, so the more stuff that you can do in space, the cheaper it becomes.
I'm showing everyone now my carrot. So,
oh, it's so small.
So, 4 months ago, I planted some little carrots that I'd grown from seeds. That's what I've got. That, and like. You're gonna need more than cress. So what's the plan then? Like, ultimately, is it like basically what vegetable gives you the most food?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not a botanist or gardener, so I'm sure my carrots would turn out similarly to yours.
Right.
But from what I know, one of the best ones would be the cabbage, because it can produce, it's where we get things like Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, all from the same plant. So that would be a really good one to...
Whoa.
Oh man, you can make a decent meal out of that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And what would they have to do? How do they go about growing these plants? Because they're growing them on the space station at the moment. How would you do that on Mars? What are they going to have to set up to do that?
Well, the ones on the space station are grown in sort of what are little pillows. They're sort of like what you get cress in a from the shops. You sort of grow the lettuce in that sort of pillow full with all of the right nutrients and love and care of the astronauts. So I suspect initially plants would be grown in sort of that sort of fashion on, say, the Moon or Mars. Eventually, you're looking at planting things in soil from the planet. So, everyone's seen The Martian, right?
Right.
About similar sort of principles of using enriched Martian soil filled with all the right nutrients to hopefully grow potatoes and more on the surface.
Well, hopefully. So, at the same time as I planted my carrots, I planted a couple of potatoes, and I've literally at lunchtime today gone and seen what I've got. That 3 months, no, 4 months that took. And there's Matt. There's Matt.
A single chip.
It's Matt Damon eating his spuds every day. Nom nom nom. I'm dubious. Anyway. Listen, I'm going to show you a new feature as well, people who are actually watching the stream. So you'll see that I've completed the mission objective, but I've got the chance to keep going for a bonus objective if I'm feeling lucky. We've not been lucky so far, so I'm just going to complete the task. And we're done. So that is it. We've started our journey back to Mercury. We're now on the Mercury transfer trajectory. So yeah, and I've got potato everywhere now.
Pro gaming.
Yeah. Right, what's next?
So another question we've got about colonizing planets. So what planets could be colonized? Like, what are your top 3 locations you think you'd want to colonize?
Oh, Mars is clearly the top one. It's the it's the most similar to Earth in terms of temperature range and location and so on. And we know that it has water and a very thin atmosphere. Other places, well, the solar system isn't great for it. We talked about Mercury, and that's far too close. I mean, we have a lot of difficulty settling on the terminus between night and day on Mercury. So say that one was out. The moon is a good spot because it's so close. It takes 3 days to get there from Earth. So we can be able to send supplies pretty regularly. Aside from that, you're not going to be able to colonize, say, Venus. It's the hottest planet in the solar system, but in a thick cloud of sulfuric acid rain and
Yeah, that
it's
doesn't
not a
sound
pleasant
great.
place. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a holiday there. But people talk about Titan as being a potential future home for human exploration, perhaps, although that is bitterly cold and the radiation from Jupiter would try you, put it bluntly.
Speaking of Jupiter, actually, I'm at the stage now where I'm researching our tech, and I can very much choose our path. We can either go down the kind of doing Saturn flybys or Jupiter flybys, or we can look at maybe making a space station. I quite like to do the Jupiter flyby, actually.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's going to be a lot of new stuff to show on stream with radiation and things like that. I just thought of somewhere else you can grow cress as well. I'm not recommending you do this, but you can pour it. You can pour a load of cress seeds on someone's carpet and water them, and just go away. and 3 days later, it's really funny.
Would you have to eat to clean up? Just to make it into a little salad?
Yes, you could. You could very easily do that. Yeah.
Get
Right.
some tiny hedge trimmers.
Yes. Yeah, and sorry, Jean-Paul Beauvais, who I did that to 20 years ago.
It's a tried and tested.
It's a classic. It's a classic. Okay, so I'm back at Mercury, and this time I'm going to remember to reduce the amount of heat that our poor little payload is getting.
This time we'll make it. So was it? So there's no other planet we could colonize other than Mars and the Moon.
So we've got, we know of different planets outside of the solar system. So we can see through the sort of different NASA telescopes that there are planets in other systems that are close enough, but not too close to their star, and that may contain liquid water in the sort of right conditions. We now refine the technology so much that we can see the sort of atmospheres that are around those other planets. So the TRAPPIST system is one of the sort of golden standards for that, because there's so many planets in the system, and there's a few of them that are within what's called the habitable zone, so the right temperatures and conditions to allow for liquid water to exist. And of course, we know from Earth that anywhere there's water, there is life. So it would be a good area to look at is the habitable zone. But there's also ice in the moons of Jupiter and Saturn as well. Europa and Enceladus are good targets for finding out if there is life from other worlds. I wouldn't want to live there though. They're very cold.
Oh, not so good with cold. I prefer it to heat though. If I could just get And just cuddly coat, maybe a bit okay.
Big old, yeah, big old woolly.
Space hot chocolate.
So with
Oh,
all this talk about like hot and cold and stuff. So if you're on, let's say you're on Mars and you colonize Mars. Now, if I remember rightly from the movie Total Recall, you can survive a bit of time. Let's say you left your habitation unit, you can survive a little bit outside. Oh, but I mean, I know his eyeballs went a bit bulgy, but and I'm not sure. But
yeah,
so, like,
there was special effects back then.
let's
But that is
let's say you open the door to get the paper and it's shut behind you. How long have you got?
a few minutes at best.
Oh, okay.
It's the atmosphere is so thin that there is no oxygen in it. It's 95% carbon dioxide, and it's about 1% the density of Earth's. So you can't breathe. Temperatures on Mars get anywhere from about 20 degrees C at most to an average minus 60.
Whoa.
You'll probably freeze. And that's not to mention the low pressure. So yeah, your eyeballs will probably burst. It's
Oh.
not a fun way to die, I don't think. I'd rather make sure I left the door on.
Right. But one good thing, Jem, no flying insects.
Oh, that is true.
That is
I might go there. Might book my flight now.
Worth the risk.
Yeah. I've been bitten by so many horseflies this weekend. I'm about to move to any planet that doesn't have flying insects.
Right, what was I doing? Oh, I'm sending the Crumbless Nugget 2B up on a mission, by the way.
The crumbless nugget.
Yeah.
So this is where I was finding out what food I'd be able to have in space from my favorite foods, and chicken nuggets. Emmett was telling us, and Andrew was telling us about the crumbs, that you can have crumbs on the space station. So they made like a crumbless bacon sandwich, and we're wondering about crumbless nuggets as a potential space food.
I think you've hit on $1 million idea there.
I think so. I mean, who's not going to want that?
Perhaps.
Yeah, space McDonald's. So just launch it into orbit for the astronauts.
I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Food on the ISS is not the best. It is not gourmet.
Oh, but they had Heston made the bacon sandwich. I haven't been able to find a picture of this. I want to know how good it would be.
Did it have any cress on it?
Could grow their own. They could have a single chip with the potatoes that they grow. It's almost a McDonald's meal.
So I'm actually about to launch a new milestone mission. While we've been so pleasantly chatting away, I've researched all the necessary information to embark on a new era of commercial satellites. So just about to put one up there. Don't worry about me. I'll just do that. But we've got another launch on our hands. 85% reliability. Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to do that.
Oh yeah, that's safe.
So we'll just
That's much better.
yeah, we'll just kick back and watch this, and I shall have a little sip of drink.
We have had someone ask in a chat, what are the chances of the ISS ever going anywhere near the moon?
Very low.
Ah, how come?
Well, the ISS takes a lot to move. It's the size of a football field in space, and it doesn't have the same sort of rocket engines as the Crumbless Nugget, for instance. So it's it does have some thrusters to be able to move out of the way of space debris, for instance, but they're nowhere near powerful enough to send it all the way to the moon, unfortunately.
Incidentally, the Crumbless Nugget, its booster is the Long March 2, and its upper is the Delta K.
Oh, that's a powerful nugget, that is.
Yeah, a heady mix. Very much a heady mix of engineering there. So listen, I'm just going to achieve Earth orbit. You guys don't worry about me.
So, what are the biggest obstacles currently to colonizing Mars that we have?
Oh, getting there is a huge deal. It takes a lot to even get to orbit, let alone halfway across the solar system. You can only do it in 2-year windows, so you're very controlled by time. So if there's ever delays, then you've got to wait another 2 years and so on. But half of all missions to Mars fail. There's lots of reasons why, from the radiation exposure on the way to the poor atmosphere conditions when you're trying to land. Metals don't tend to hold up that well in space for extended periods of time. So even getting something like a probe or rover onto the surface is, you've got a 50-50 chance. So getting humans there is an even bigger deal. We know sort of how people can survive for extended periods on the ISS, but you're only a few hours away on the ISS, whereas Mars, it will take about a year for you to get there, 7 months to 12 months, depending on how fast it's going. And then have a vehicle available for you to get back as well. So if you land on the surface, you've also got to have a rocket to take you off the surface. So you've got to take all of that fuel with you. Everything adds up. It's a lot of technology and a lot of money and a lot of manpower goes into any mission, and something like Mars is a big deal.
Yeah, which is why it's such an international effort, I suppose, to get all the missions.
It is, yeah. The NASA's Artemis mission isn't just NASA, for instance. It has involvement in the Japanese Space Agency as well as the European Space Agency, and us as well. So they're all truly international efforts, and getting humans to Mars will take everyone's contribution.
Cool. And what are your thoughts on the feasibility and usefulness of terraforming Mars or any planet?
Terraforming Mars would be very difficult. It's taken us, over 100 years for the industrial era to sort of catch up with us and change temperatures globally. And even a concerted effort to do something like that on Mars, where there are no fossil fuels, would be, extreme. Elon Musk likes to talk about detonating nuclear warheads over the poles to melt ice caps. The temperature on Mars is, as I've said before, very low, so that ice won't be water for very long.
Yeah, he needs to chill out.
It's not going to be anytime soon, certainly not in my lifetime, unfortunately. It would take a hell of a lot of resources to do anything like that. And that's not even counting the sort of ethical implications of terraforming a whole planet.
So probably not anytime soon, unless
unfortunately
we might not get to see it unless we can become robots ourselves.
Whoa.
That is always that.
That's the next option.
Yeah.
Because robots obviously is your area of expertise. So what are the pros and cons of humans versus robot exploration? Do you have
It's much cheaper to send a robot than it is to send 2 or 3 people. Crewed exploration is always more expensive because you've got so much more to deal with. It's the extra mass and all of the equipment that an astronaut would need to survive. The life support systems are big, complicated sets of machines. A robot just doesn't mind vacuum. It's got radiation hardened computer chips in it. They're designed to last in space. Humans aren't. We're not very good at surviving in vacuum. It's not very pleasant for us. But you can send a couple of robots to do most of what people can.
And they don't eat all the potatoes.
And they don't eat your potatoes. I mean, they wouldn't survive on yours anyway, Mike. So
They wouldn't. Speaking of surviving in a vacuum, makes me think of 2001: Space Odyssey. The bit weird. So we're chatting. What have you got any favourite space movies, Paul?
Well, a recent one is The Martian. That is good. I
Do you think it's quite a good example of like what it'd be like? Is it quite realistic?
it's certainly one of the better depictions. It's better than say Total Recall. No offense. um, the sort of how Matt Damon survives is fairly realistic, although the sort of storms and his eventual launch of a rocket and that are less realistic. Wind on Mars would barely be a tickle of a breeze as the atmosphere. So,
Okay, so the storms wouldn't be that powerful.
no, they're sort of enough to lift microscopic grains of dust. That's why we see Mars change so much during the dust season, where whole swathes of the planet are covered in dust particles moving across. Whereas, if you were actually stood there, you wouldn't really feel it at all. It's because the air pressure is so much lower than it is on Earth.
Good.
No kite flying on Mars then.
Yeah, right.
Although NASA will be sending a helicopter to Mars with the Perseverance rover, which should be launching at the end of this month.
Cool, a space helicopter.
Yeah.
So how's that going to fly differently with the lower air? Would it be easier for the helicopter to fly or harder?
It'd be more difficult. Helicopters function by pushing a cushion of air down to lift themselves up. And as there's a lot less air on Mars, it has to work a lot harder to push the same volume of air to lift itself up. So it's built very lightly with, I think it's got 2 sets of rotor blades on it
Oh, wow.
to help it to move along.
Oh, man. This is something me and Mike were talking about, actually. I was telling Mike about Curiosity rover and how it would sing happy birthday to itself. It has the same birthday as my little sister. That's how I always remembered its birthday. And then when it's had a little goodbye message when it was running out of power. And we were saying, like, are there benefits to sort of giving the robots more human characteristics? Is that like for maybe like public support, or is that just a fun thing people have done?
It's more a case of public support. The more you can sort of personify a rover, the more people will identify with it. And a lot of space exploration is about inspiration.
Right. Yeah.
About inspiring the next generation to join the space industry and the search for life on other planets and that sort of thing. So Curiosity singing happy birthday to itself and Opportunity saying goodbye are really good ways of engaging children and adults of all ages in feeling part of that experience. Because space is for everyone. It's all out there, and we're national agencies doing it for the good of our countries, basically.
Yeah, because looking at the ExoMars rover, it's very cute. I like the little camera on top. It kind of reminds me of WALL-E.
Yes, yeah. We've had that one before, because the camera itself was built in England, so from the ground up, and the sort of rest of the rover was built from involving lots of different countries and businesses. So it was all assembled and integrated in Airbus Stevenage, and I was lucky enough to go inside the clean room and see it with my own 2 eyes, dressed all in biohazard gear.
Wow, that's cool.
It was a lot of fun. You have to go through a lot of protection systems, so you've got to wipe yourself down with isopropyl alcohol, and it's almost like going to the shops now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
What's the why do you have to wipe yourself down? What's the risk? You don't want to contaminate the robot?
Yeah. So the primary mission of the Rosalind Franklin rover is to look for signs of past or present life on Mars. And those signs of life are going to be very small, microscopic bacteria. So you don't want to take that bacteria into the room with you and transfer it onto the rover, because then you're not going to be able to tell, if what you've brought is something that you think is life on Mars. So you need everything to be hyper clean.
Yeah.
The clean room in Airbus is, I think it's outside of the pharmaceutical industry, it's the cleanest room in Europe.
Wow. So when did they start making, like, keeping the bits isolated? So you're going to build the chips and start assembling it. At what point is it done in an isolated environment? Is it the whole time that it's being created, or just at a certain point they're like, now we wipe everything down?
But you have different levels of both cleanliness and sort of manufacture, and different clean rooms. So the university will have its own clean room that isn't, say, as high a grade, and they'll manufacture what they can in that room and then seal it up in packages, send it to Airbus or another facility, who will then bake it in an oven, and then swab it down with alcohol wipes and sort of disinfectants and things like that, and then bake it again and package it up. And I think there's 3 sets of levels of cleanliness in the clean room itself. So everyone has to sort of pass things from one section of the room to another through like hatches in the walls. It's quite fun to watch people sort of pass the parcel around and open different packages.
Man, that's a lot.
A lot of work goes into it. It's very difficult to maintain that level of cleanliness. And inside the rover itself, there's an even more clean area called the ultra clean zone, which is where all of the main scientific instruments for detecting life are held. So they need to be completely sealed from the atmosphere as well as from dirt and bacteria.
Yeah, so you can look for it. Wow. So how do you power space robots? Is it like solar power? It's like, I guess it's the only thing that would stop them going forever.
Yeah, solar power is what we're using on Rosalind Franklin, and it's what was used on the Opportunity Spirit NASA rovers. It's a sort of cheaper, reliable way of keeping a robot powered for extended periods of time. Because during the day, they'll charge their batteries so that they can survive the cold, dark nights. But Curiosity and the soon-to-be sent Perseverance rover use what are called RTGs, or radioisotope thermoelectric generators. We like acronyms a lot in this industry. But so that's basically a pellet of nuclear material that gives off a small amount of heat that generates electricity over a long extended period of time. And so Curiosity will last until that runs out, which could be 50 years.
Oh, wow. Oh. How are we doing on the game, Mike?
Well, I'm just setting us up ready to do a Jupiter flyby. So I'm selecting a payload which is very difficult to pronounce, but I'm going to have a go. Tsiolkovsky? Anyway. It's a lovely looking thing. It's a robotic probe capable of long-term exploration of the outer solar system and beyond. So, yeah, we'll buy that.
It looks good.
I like the look of him. He's got a distinct kind of like bulbous look. So
It's a very Russian design.
Yeah, I think it is a Russian thing. So, okay, so after this, I think I'm going to go for... I'm going to keep on these flybys. Let's see some new planets. So we've got Neptune, Uranus. Let's go for Neptune.
Yeah.
Let's go for...
What's Neptune like, Paul? Is it covered in water?
It's one of the ice planets. So it's very cold gases like methane and carbon dioxide. It's not a pleasant place. It wouldn't smell very nice.
Smelly and cold. You can fly by from a distance. I don't know if I want to get too close to that
Yeah.
one.
Okay. None of our rocket designs are going to reach this far, so we're going to have to research a new
No.
one.
Yeah, Neptune and Uranus are two of the least explored planets because they're just so far away, and you can't use things like solar panels. I think the Voyager probes were the last ones to go near them, and they're on their last nuclear-powered legs. So
Okay.
they're a difficult place.
Yeah. So we've suddenly hit this massive problem. Now we want to go out of the later solar system. We're going to have to build bigger launch pads. We're going to have to build bigger rockets. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to have to start building us some bigger launch pads. Let me see. So the large launch pad, in order to get that, I'm going to have to build the vehicle assembly building first. The VAB.
That'd be where you have all the cleanliness labs and stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
So is the distance one of the main things that is like one of the main challenges in getting rovers on other planets?
Yeah, it certainly can be. You've got to build a robot to be able to last hibernation for 6-7 months, or a spacecraft like ESA's Bepi Colombo mission to Mercury. That's got to last in hibernation for 7 years. It's
Oh.
Yeah, so it's got to go through the sun's radiation, for us, and the cold vacuum of space, and survive that, and then get close enough to Mercury and the sun without, burning up. It's difficult to design for so many unknowns and so many different extreme hazards.
What about the surface of the planet? If Neptune is like an ice planet, can it drive around on the ice, or would the gas stop it? Or
It's called an ice planet because the gases are so cold rather than being like water ice. So you wouldn't be able to step on Neptune. It's so they're more like Jupiter or Saturn in that they're still gaseous giants, basically. So you could float in the clouds in the top layer for a bit, but you wouldn't ever be able to set down on the surface because it would be so deep, and there may not even be a sort of rocky core for you to stand on.
yeah, nothing to roll around on, so it wouldn't be
Right.
good for roving.
Yeah, not a lot of roving. Maybe a bit of floating. There are different concepts for going to Venus rather than landing on the surface itself, which is after the sulfuric acid and extreme pressure. Instead, you have balloons and float in the upper atmosphere to be able to look down at the surface with radar rather than visual cameras.
Yeah. Okay. What about if you're like drilling on Mars? There'll be drilling to look for things.
Yeah, on the Rosalind Franklin rover, it's the first rover to be able to drill underneath the Martian surface. So it's a folding drill that will be able to dig 2 meters below the surface, which the first 2 meters of the regolith would be bombarded by the sun's radiation. So there's no protection from the atmosphere or a magnetosphere like we have on Earth. So below that is where scientists think that life could possibly have existed or still exist.
What about if the drill breaks or gets blunt?
Yeah.
Is there like
Yeah, that'll be a big issue. It's got a couple of spare drill bits because it can take just a handful of samples because you can't take multiple drills with you. You've got to work with what you've got.
yeah.
And so it'll be able to swap a bit in order to collect as many samples as it can. Very few of them.
What about if the rover breaks in general? Can they fix themselves?
Oof. probably not mechanical ones. So if they're like building redundancies to the rovers. So Rosalind Franklin it has 6 wheels in total, but it's designed so that it can drive with only 3 of them in case some of them break.
Mhm.
Curiosity, for instance, has tons of scratches and scrapes and breaks in its wheels because it's been there for so long, and one of them, like I think, keeps getting stuck, but it's still driving around. Then there's cases like NASA's InSight lander, which has a sort of what's called the mole, which is a drill designed to go underneath the Martian surface and measure the temperature gradient between the surface and a couple of meters below. But that keeps getting stuck. And the scientists are trying multiple ways of moving an arm to try and dig it out, and all of these sort of more and more elaborate ways of digging a hole, basically, is what you've got. Of course, you wouldn't be able to survive Mike exploding you at launch.
You saw.
I guess I've seen.
I thought that one had sneaked under the radar. Yeah. So I just blew something else up. I'm trying. Sometimes it just goes wrong.
But it's a lovely
You're not making the
animation.
grade here. I'm sorry, the agency doesn't approve.
I know. No, but in better news, my Long March has leveled up to reach its max level experience. So that's something to take back to the fellas in the agency.
Every failure is learning experience.
That's what I'm told. That we even learn a lot from failures. So we're learning a lot.
Mike launched an oversized firework. It's true, he did. A very expensive firework, but it looked fabulous.
But yeah, Spark can have another go. Anyway, that was the Zetus 2. It wasn't the Crumbless Nugget, so it's not like it's our best. Sorry.
Sorry, Zetus.
Yeah.
Zetus died in the last stream too, didn't they?
I'm afraid. Yeah. So yeah, the rocket, the Zetus 2, is named after somebody in our Discord who we named an astronaut as in the previous stream, Paul, and then we promptly torched him mid-air, completely by accident on the air. So we've literally just named a rocket after him in his memory, and it's exploded. So that's new.
But I have faith in the Crumbless Nugget. The Crumbless Nugget will see us through.
Well, listen, new law. Let's not name anything else after Zetus. It's not
Cursed.
It's not working out well. Okay, I'm still building up to this Jupiter mission because I've got all this sudden changes. Like, our agency is building up to the big time. We've got to make a big launch pad and all that. So I'm clearing out a bit of space. Now, luckily, one of the traits that CNSA has in the game is that you can move stuff for free. They do not mind you shuffling your space agency around. So that's one of the things that makes playing as China quite different. So there we go. I've just placed our large launch pad.
It's great.
It's all right, isn't it? It's quite a pretty little area they've got here.
I like the trees, and the river. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a nice little pond there to go and relax next to.
Perfect. Yeah. Right. And we're now 1 month away from doing a little request mission, which is launching a commercial satellite. In the meantime, why don't we research a new building? What's this? Water sound suppression. Water sound suppression uses water to dampen the noise produced by engines at launch, the vibrations of which could otherwise damage the vehicle. I like the sound of that.
That sounds good. Although probably the explosions of launch will also damage the vehicle, but let's hope we don't have any more of those.
Yeah, okay.
There's just like an explosion and Mike's like, well, the water's not vibrating it, so it's fine.
Paul, we talked about 2001. Did you ever see 2010?
Yes, I have, yeah.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a good follow-up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different kettle of fish in many ways, but
yeah. It's not Stanley Kubrick, which is unfortunate.
It's certainly a different vibe and different directorial style. But yeah, I was just talking to Jim about it the other day. It's quite good.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. I need to put it on my list.
Yeah,
space
I'll recommend
to
it.
watch.
I like. I won't say I like the bit at the end. No, come on. When did that come out? Now it's got to be the early '80s. If you haven't seen it by now, it's your fault. I love
How
it.
long do spoilers last?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've got a. I reckon 2 years. If something's older than 2 years, you don't get to moan about spoilers.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But you know the bit where Europa melts, and it says all these worlds are yours, whatever, except Europa. Don't land there. Could we terraform Europa? Was that made up? That's a lot of
Well,
that's a lot
you
of
could-
ice to melt, I suppose. Is it?
Yeah, it's a lot of ice to melt. You could certainly, if you could ignite Jupiter like in 2010, then yeah, you'd melt it. But as for things surviving there afterwards, probably less so.
Touch and go. So basically, Elon Musk he's thinking small, isn't he, with his nuking. What he need,
I'm not sure I'd plant the idea of igniting Jupiter into his head.
No.
You never know when.
Just send up a robot with some flint to just
Yeah.
spark going.
Saying that, Elon, if you want to be in our game, give us a shout.
All it is.
What was I doing? I completely forgotten what mission I'm doing. Oh yeah, it was I'm putting a commercial satellite up. Somebody's asked me to put a satellite up, but because we were chatting, I haven't paid attention, and I may well have just committed this very expensive commercial satellite to a drift, the likes of which it will not be able to recover from. Let me see. Yep, the camera heaters have failed. It's drifting out. So unless a miracle happens, I'm afraid we've just lost another one.
So many casualties on this. Is this the fourth one? Oh.
Hang on, do you know what? I think because of a bug, we've managed to get away with this one.
This will be fixed for launch.
Absolutely. But of course, these things happen.
Yeah, we're still building improvements on the game and acting on the beta feedback and feedback we had from the Steam Game Festival demo as well.
Yeah.
The game is getting better and better, but it is not finished yet.
But yeah, not quite finished yet, but playing great. Gotta say, it's very enjoyable. But yeah. Okay, so I might have pulled this back. Let's hope everybody at the agency was not looking at the monitors when that happened. Let's just complete that task. And
Ta-da!
okay, we're down to phase 2 of the task. We've got to deploy the satellite systems. I'll pay closer attention to the drift this time. Okay, so got to make a few of those. Bit of that. Get him back there. Yeah, satellites.
So we were talking earlier about how the rovers and rockets are like multi-national and we're working together on them.
Yeah.
So we were thinking like with the robots, if so you've got the cameras built in England and different parts from different countries, how do you say like the nationality of the robot? Because I guess it doesn't necessarily go to one country, like they own this, but how does that work?
So with ESA and Rosalind Franklin, it's an ESA mission. So it's the European Space Agency. In this case, we're the sort of lead member on the rover. So we get to say the UK built it because everything comes to us and we fit it all together, basically. So in this case, it's a UK built rover. The components are manufactured in different countries. Italy, France, Germany, Spain, they've all contributed. And different scientific instruments come from different places as well. But it's nice to be able to say it's a UK rover.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's have a look at how my diplomacy levels are doing in the game. Let's see how we're doing. So, the old diplomatic relations, I would say on the whole are a mixed bag. Russia are quite happy with us. In fact, I'd go as far as to say they are friendly. Yeah. I'm afraid Japan. We're competing with Japan. I don't know what I'm doing wrong there. We're a bit neutral with ESA and and NASA. But yeah, I mean, the way we like to look at it in our Chinese space agency, and I don't want to speak for you, Paul and Jem, but a victory for us is a victory for all of mankind.
Yeah, and therefore, if we mess up and blow up 5 rockets, that's everyone
Exactly.
doing this together. It's not just our fault.
Our debt is your debt. It's the way I look at it.
Oh,
You can't have it
I
both
think we
ways.
may have something to say about that.
No, it's fine. Anyway, 3 months away from this large launch pad being completed. Beautiful. Let's hang on. That's done. I'm just gonna have a little look at it. There it is. Look at that.
Oh, it's great.
That is a whopper. Pretty nice. Okay, so that means now, ladies and gentlemen, we can have a look at a Jupiter mission. So we've got this ongoing Jupiter flyby thing. Oh yeah, that was it. We were researching these vehicle parts, weren't we? And I'm there researching water sound suppression. Anyway, so what do we need to research? So we need to research the N1 booster and then the Long March 3. So I've got a little bit of research to do before that. So how are we going to get this research to happen quicker, everybody? We are going to do some request missions. So let's see what people want us to do. So here we are, Phobos Photography. An orbital probe can be designed which will not only return photographs of the surface of Mars, but will also rendezvous with and photograph its moon, Phobos. Colonizable, Paul? Do you reckon, Phobos? Or another, waste of time?
Well, Phobos is an asteroid. Well, it's likely to be an asteroid that was captured by Mars some millions of years ago. So you could drill a big hole in it and put a nice window on the top and live inside.
I love that. I love that idea. I will be honest. Right. Okay. So one of the things that when we were talking to Emmett about Mars, he was saying that they might all go and live in a lava tunnel when they colonize it.
Yeah, lava tunnels would be a good way to protect you from the radiation.
Now, if there is indeed life on Mars, do you not reckon it's going to be down a big old black tunnel?
Yeah, it could be. So microbial life could be literally anywhere. That's why we're looking just underneath the surface. And the area that Rosalind Franklin's going to land, for instance, is probably an old lake or riverbed. So, because we know that had water, maybe there's life there. But somewhere like a lava tunnel, you're not likely to find little green men, but in the sort of safe environment there, you may find bacterial life, yeah. Or the other sort of option is underneath the ice caps. So Mars is like Earth and has both a north and south polar ice cap in craters. A lot of this ice is carbon dioxide ice, so dry ice, and you don't want to put your hands on that because you'll get burned. But underneath that is likely to be water ice. So if you could drill all the way below that as well,
right,
that could be a good place to look.
Well, we're just about to do a launch. Okay. Forgotten what this mission is as well.
With the retrieving samples from Mars, we've got that mission in the game. How do we or can we get samples back from Mars?
That is a good question. So with ESA and NASA, we have the proposed Mars sample return mission. So the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover from NASA will collect samples of the Martian soil in little tubes and leave them dotted on the surface of Mars. Then later, we will build a sample fetch rover, and ESA will build a spacecraft and lander for it. And we'll send that to Mars, and that will go and pick up all of those cached samples that the Perseverance rover has left on the surface of Mars, and it'll take them back to the lander, put them in a capsule, and launch it on a rocket all the way up to Mars, the Martian orbit, and there it will be captured by another spacecraft and sent all the way back to Earth, where eventually it will land somewhere in Utah, I think, is the current destination. So it's going to take a lot of engineering and coordination and mapping and everything to get just a few grains of Martian soil
Yeah.
from one planet to another.
We just discovered water on Mars in the game.
Yeah. That's good
Would
news.
would we try and get water back from Mars too? Maybe it would be different.
Well, hopefully some of the soil will contain water. But we don't know if it's in the top level of the soil. If we did bring back water, chances are it would be small ice crystals rather than liquid. You wouldn't want to drink it. It would be,
That would be my first instinct. I
yeah.
want to get what happened.
I'll preempt that before anyone gets any ideas of drinking samples.
Would they be kept like in a sealed space just in case they contain anything dangerous for us, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean that's something that we're considering is how these samples will be stored. So the US has the Apollo lunar samples in a vault underground, kept temperature controlled and hermetically sealed and so on. And even though we know that there's no life on the moon, so we need to develop whole new protocols for protecting not just the Mars, but also us from any potentially harmful Martian life. So it's something that scientists across Europe and America are all looking at doing and developing facilities for controlling dangerous substances, basically. It's because if something did escape, then we'd have no idea of dealing with it, because chances are it wouldn't be based on life from Earth. It could be completely different and we wouldn't know what to do. So there's talk of sterilizing the samples before releasing them to scientists to study, for instance, so that you would look at the remains of bacteria rather than active ones, for instance.
Yeah. So they wouldn't let me come in and try eating the sample.
No, again, no eating of it's very expensive soil sample from Mars.
How about mushrooms? You grew some lovely mushrooms. Maybe I'm thinking about growing mushrooms, Jen. Jen, what do you reckon?
Oh, yeah, grow some mushrooms. If you use the Martian soil, special Mars mushrooms.
Yeah. No.
Scientists be like, Jem, you can't have the samples for anything.
So I've got these tomato as well. I don't know if I showed you that.
Oh yeah, let me see.
4 months.
That looks quite good. Oh, 4 months.
No, it looks good because I'm holding it close to the camera. Look how big it is.
Is it meant to be a cherry tomato?
No, it's a normal tomato. It's supposed to be a normal tomato.
I've accidentally grown dwarf ones.
I don't know.
I bet it tastes great though. You can make a tiny pizza.
I'm not trying it. I'll ask my wife to try it first.
Someone has asked if you have a pile of veg next to you. Yes, you do.
At all times. Come on, mate. Come on.
Healthy.
Listen. So we're going to end the stream in a few minutes' time. We're going to see how far we get. We're going to try and do our big Jupiter flyby mission. We've just had the launch. Astonishingly, it didn't blow up. We had a huge chance of failure. It was raining. But I figured if I hold a tomato aloft It will be a good omen. And look at that, brilliant, a secure
There we
launch.
go. We'll make sure there's tomatoes for sale in the Aura Digital shop on launch, and you two can hold up the lucky Mars tomato.
Yeah.
I guess they look like tiny Mars.
They look like Marses, don't they? Yeah.
So there you go. That gives you luck for the low launch reliability. Just hold up a little tiny tomato.
Yeah, maybe this wasn't a waste of time. I'm making merch, free merch.
There you go. Official branded tomatoes.
No re-
If only the Russians had that when they did try to launch the N1 rockets.
Ah, I know, right? Oh man, goodness me.
But I know they do like.
It smells alright. Anyway.
People have like good luck things. Did I read that the Russians we somewhere
Do,
as like
Ah,
a
yes.
luck ritual?
do a little
Yeah,
wee.
the trip from to Baikonur Cosmodrome, the Yuri Gagarin got out of the truck halfway and had a comfort break
Yeah.
in the middle of the Kazakhstan steppes. And so ever since then, the Russians have done a traditional mid-journey break.
Ah, okay.
So that can be the Aura Digital tradition is hold a tomato aloft.
Yeah.
Sniff the tomato.
That's good luck. Perfect. Someone has asked, would it be possible to do an Apollo type sample retrieval on an appropriate scale? In this scenario, the Eagle lander would be a sample pod or capsule launched to orbit to rendezvous with a return craft that was left in orbit or sent afterwards.
That's something that can be considered. The Apollo program was hugely successful, but also hugely expensive. Doing the sort of multi-spacecraft, having rendezvous in space and landing on the surface of Moon or Mars, and then launching back up and so on, forms the basis of the Mars sample return mission. It's just on a much smaller physical scale, but over much wider distances. So Apollo did it through 3 days away over the moon, doing it not with people but with small robots over hundreds of millions of miles. Doing it with humans, that's the ultimate goal. Is for us to get humans onto the Martian surface, and we'll have to do it in a similar fashion to the Apollo program, but in all likelihood we'll have to use multiple rockets and build a spaceship in space, because it would require so much fuel to get all the way to Mars that you wouldn't be able to launch it all in one.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Okay. Yeah. So when Perseverance rover is on Mars, is there any chance it will meet Curiosity rover?
I don't think so. They're
They can't
landing
be
in.
friends.
No, they can't be friends. They can.
Oh,
Yeah, they land in two different areas. So I think Perseverance is landing hundreds of miles away, and Curiosity is in its past 8-9 years of running has only gone 100 or so, I think, off the top of my head. So they're not going to reach each other anytime soon, unfortunately,
oh.
to get a selfie with the two of them. But
Yeah. I'd be running the space agency and I'd be like, Jen, we should look at a different part of Mars. And I'm like, no, send it to where the other rover is. They need to be friends.
yeah, you want to look at as much of the surface as you can. You want to go to the same place. But the selfie is important.
I'll just have to edit one of them together. Oh, they could. I want them to hang out.
Oh, what am I doing? Guys, this is all going wrong.
Oh no, because it's been going so well up to this point.
I know.
Quickly, hold the tomato aloft.
Okay. Nah, it's a lost cause, everyone.
Oh, even a tomato can't save us now.
Maybe you'll have to name your rockets after tomatoes now.
Yes.
I'll give it a
That
go.
extra bit of luck.
Listen, I'm gonna give it one more sniff. Okay. And let's go.
Come on.
It's not going to happen. Basically, I forgot that in this particular mission that you lose all of your thrust at every turn. Never mind. Let's just watch the slow death of our brave little Jupiter probe.
So we've lost 6.
Yeah. So what are the final scores on the doors? I think, from recollection, 6 or 7. 6.
Yeah, it's been a fair few, hasn't it?
Space is hard.
It is hard. We're here showing you the risks and how difficult it is.
And there he
Oh,
goes.
look, blowing off. Bye, friend.
Off on a lonely, lonely journey.
That is a long and lonely journey he's off onto now. Yeah.
6 and counting.
Well, there we go. That's a good place to stop. Let's see how everybody else was doing. So there's a lot of missions from AI happening out in the far depths of the solar system. Basically, we have been absolutely destroyed by the AI here. There's ESA boldly going, and then back here.
Much like in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's everybody else doing a bit of moon missions. So you see where we ended up. So, I mean, we were still friends with Russia because I guess, we were no threat. And at least our base ended up looking alright. And the most important thing is we learned an awful lot about growing vegetables in space, robots, and 2010: A Space Odyssey.
These are the important things.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, Paul, for hanging out. That was really fun.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys watching the stream enjoyed it. That was Mars Horizon. It's a space agency management game. Check it out. Have fun.